Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and I'm here with MidwayUSA, and we're talking about the Beretta M9A4, an elegant weapon that has a lot of great features I think you should be aware of, and I want to tell you a little bit about it regarding specifications, things that I like about the gun, things I don't like about the gun, some issues I've ran into, and why I still think it's an excellent choice for self-defense, home defense, or any other preparedness-related reasons for why you might want a high-quality duty-style handgun. Now, before we get into it, I do want to give you some disclosures. I have worked with Beretta in the past, and Beretta did supply this handgun free of charge to my channel. So any bias that might exist there is now transparent for you to decide upon before making a decision. But I wanted you to be aware of that because I try to be as honest as I can. But regardless of any perceived bias, I'm going to tell you the truth and all of my experience regarding this gun, including some malfunctions and issues that I've ran into. So let's start with specifications. All right, so this is the M9A4 full-size version, which means it has a 5.1-inch threaded barrel, which is chambered in 9mm Luger, and it comes with additional O-rings to keep that thread protector on, which I find to be very beneficial. It has an overall length of 8.7 inches and a width of 1.5 inches, including a height of 5.4 inches. Now, it's advertised to have a 33.4-ounce weight unloaded. However, without the pistol mounted light and just the optic and a fully loaded magazine, mine comes in at 34.5 ounces. So not sure how accurate that weight is, but that's what we're working with right now because I didn't want to take my optic off. It has 18 round flush fit magazines, and it actually comes with 3 of them, which I appreciate because some manufacturers out there still think you only need 1 or 2 magazines with your very expensive pistol, which this one is pretty expensive, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. One thing that's great about the M9A4 that you didn't receive on previous generations of the M9 versions is that it is actually optics ready. It's cut for a red dot sight, and you use plates in conjunction with that optic cut in order to get whatever optic you want on there. And it actually has an option to get 5 different plates, which you do have to purchase separately. They do not come with the pistol. And the optics mounting footprints they currently offer are the Delta Point Pro, Seymour, the Acro footprint, as well as the RMR and the Dr. Noblex. So you have a lot of options, but you do have to purchase that plate separately. Now, if you don't care about optics or you just like having nice features on your pistol, what's nice is it does come with tritium night sights as well, which are really bright and very good with contrast. So I find those sights to be more than adequate, actually very nice in all honesty. Now, it also has the 3-slot Picatinny rail here where the dust cover is, which allows you to add additional accessories. So of course right here I have a Surefire X300 on, but you could put other things on there like a laser or a different kind of light or whatever you want because it's very universal. Now the grip is also very interesting. This is a Vertex style grip. Now, what that means is that it has a very straight and vertical back strap here. And the back strap has some very good checkering on it, as well as the front strap. And then it has these polymer grip panels on the sides, which are very aggressive. And I like them a lot. Like they really tear up my hand, but in a good way. And now you can actually put on an additional grip panel set that comes with the gun that adds that more rounded butt to the back strap, which you might be used to if you shoot a 92 FS or one of the older models. So you still have that option to get the more traditional Beretta feel in your hand. But I personally like this Vertex style grip a lot. I think the ergonomics on this particular model has improved the gun overall. Now, this FDE finish you see on here is wear resistant and of course corrosion resistant as well, so that helps protect the firearm. And then this model is what's known as a G style because it has a G style decocker. So this cannot be used as a safety. It is a decocker only. And what does that mean? So go ahead and drop the magazine. Check the firearm, make sure we're clear. Okay. You have a double action, single action pistol. Right now it's in single action because I just racked the slide. The decocker allows you to drop that hammer safely, and now you're back in double action. I can't lock or put the firearm on safe with the hammer cocked back like you could with a 1911 or something like that. So this gun really is truly only double action, single action, but once you rack the slide to chamber around, you can then use that decocker to put the gun back in double action, which makes it safer when holstering. And of course that first shot's gonna be a little bit of a longer trigger pull, but that's also part of the safety involving the pistol. So what's interesting about Berettas in particular is that they use what's called a falling locking block. They don't tilt in the sense of a tilting barrel locking system like you see on your Glocks and other polymer double stack pistols, right? This is a falling locking block, so the barrel doesn't tilt during cycling, which is very nice because it makes for a good suppressor host, or likely a good suppressor host, because currently I don't have a pistol caliber suppressor, so I haven't been able to test that. But from my research and my understanding of good pistols for running suppressors, the M9A4 is one of the best, which makes a lot of sense because the barrel doesn't have to tilt. So that's the details of the Beretta M9A4. Now let's talk about some of the things I like about the gun, a little bit of its history, and we'll talk about some of the issues I've run into, and that way you can make the best decision possible when it comes to whether or not this might be a handgun you need. Now, one of the biggest questions about the M9A4 was whether or not the military made a mistake by switching to the 6-hour M17. And the military already had the logistics stream for magazines, parts, and all the armorers were already trained on that pistol and everything else. So I'm not sure, but here's what you should know is the M9 was adopted by the military in 1985, and it served with the US military until 2017. So that's 32 years of service within our military. And that's pretty impressive, and it's one of the best reasons for getting an M9A4. You have a robust logistics supply chain of Beretta M9/92 parts and accessories and everything else you can think of out there in the wild, thanks to their use by our military for so long and their adoption by law enforcement agencies as well. So this is one of the better pistols that you can access regarding logistics when it comes to getting things for less expensive or just having access to additional supplies when needed. So I really like that about the M9A4. It's one of the best selling points in my opinion, especially if you're not a fan of the Glock, let's say, because it's also very good in the logistics department. If you wanted something more robust or you wanted a metal framed gun, which just does have an aluminum frame versus being polymer or something like that, well, now you have that option with basically a very competitive logistics stream, even compared to Glock. So I think that's a huge A+ for the M9A4. Now, the other thing that you really can't argue about is the track record of reliability. When you have 32 years of military service with this design of the M9, you know exactly what you're getting. And this has been proven to be a very reliable, very accurate, and durable pistol. Yes, do the locking blocks eventually break over years of abuse and thousands of rounds? Of course, you have to replace small parts and things happen. But in general, as a civilian, I would be very comfortable relying on this handgun in any type of life or death scenario. So another thing I like about this gun is that it is very accurate. It's really easy to get on target with this pistol. It's got some weight to it, and it also feels like it recoils a little bit less thanks to the minimalistic slide design. You have this cutout slide, which removes a lot of mass, and then you also have the aluminum frame. So everything comes together to be a very smooth shooting pistol that doesn't feel like it has a lot of recoil, while also being very, very accurate. Now, I can tell you how accurate a pistol is, but I should probably show you. So I went ahead and set up a target with a fresh shoot and see, downrange there at about 15 yards. And I'm not a professional shooter or anything else, which should tell you just how accurate this pistol is, because it is pretty accurate. So let's go ahead and shoot it, and that way you can just kind of see what a regular person like myself is capable of with this particular handgun. Not my best target ever. That first shot was really good, and then, you know, my regular person mode kicked in. But let's take a look at the target anyway for fun, okay? Like I said, we're about 15 yards, shooting 124 grain 9mm NATO. And you can see here, I have 3 shots here that are out of that 6-inch circle, and all the rest are within it. And that was a full 18-round magazine, so I'm not disappointed by it. But That's the expectation of accuracy from the pistol. You can do much better if you take your time, but here we are. And I think the ergonomics on the M9A4 are just very good and much improved over the older, 92 FS or anything like that, which I used to own a 92 FS and I loved that pistol, but it was very chunky, it was thick in your hands, and it was kind of bulbous, right? And this gun got rid of all of that, and now even someone with smaller hands could actually handle this pistol without any issue. So I really think the ergonomics are there, especially when it comes to the slide release and everything else. Like the magazine button is oversized and really sticks out. You can just kind of see it there. Ergonomics are on point, so no complaints there at all. And the double action, single action of this pistol is very smooth. You have a great trigger reset, and the initial double action pull, of course, is long, but it doesn't feel as heavy as some other guns like a Sig Sauer P226, for example. So I think the trigger is very well tuned for what it is in the sense of being a DASA gun. And then on single action, this thing just rips. So all those things are very good. And as you can see, so we're clear, right? So we'll go ahead and decock it. And just to kind of give you an idea here. So right here we're on double action, and it's just a very smooth travel. And then if we put it in single action, you can see the reset is very short. Like I'm already reset. So all in all, a very smooth system. And I don't know if that demonstrated it very well because I was kind of off camera a little bit, but I did the best I can. Take my word for it, a very good action. Now, what are some of the things I've run into and maybe some of the qualities of the pistol that I'm not the biggest fan of? First off, I don't necessarily think this is overly a negative, but it's a big consideration, and that's going to be price point. These run over $1,100, and that's kind of expensive. I can understand why someone might want to spend something like, $500 or $600 on a Glock when this accomplishes the same goal in many ways, but at an $1,100 and up price point. So that's a big consideration, but you do get what you pay for in many ways. I mean, everything is very well done in the sense of quality, and it's a metal frame pistol rather than being polymer. So everything is there. It's just costing you a little bit more. So that's a big consideration to make. The other thing that you would definitely need to be aware of with this gun is that it's pretty large and pretty heavy. And when you're talking about concealed carry or something like that, this is definitely not going to be my choice for that. So one of my biggest gripes with this pistol. Now, one of my biggest gripes with this pistol is the red dot mounting system. Now, I know it's a requirement because of the design of the slide being very minimalist with the barrel exposed and everything else. There's only so much you can do here. So you have to use a plate mounting system, and that plate mounting system raises the optic up pretty high. And that's something you have to get used to, especially if you already shoot other handguns with red dot sights. This one is going to be noticeably higher. Now you can train around that, of course, and if you use a red dot like an RMR, which is more low profile than some other options on the market, it does help a little bit with that additional height. But it is something you should definitely be aware of, and it is something that I had to get used to, so I wanted to point it out. Now, one thing I will say though is that the sights that come with the gun, the tritium night sights, are very, very good. They're the brightest night sights I've ever seen on a pistol. So if you didn't want to use a red dot sight, you'd be totally fine not to, because these factory sights are excellent. The other issue though is that they don't have factory suppressor height sights for this gun quite yet, so you can't co-witness a red dot sight with them. So you do not have a backup aiming system if you're using a red dot optic. So first off, choosing a very high quality, well-tested red dot like a Trijicon RMR might be a good way to go, so that way you have as much reliability as possible, but you still don't have access to a backup sighting system, which does give me a little bit of concern. So in general, unless you're very adamant about using red dots on your pistols, kind of like I am, I don't know if I would be too concerned about the red dot mounting option, since the sights are already very good and the red dot has to sit so high. You might want to just stick with the tritium iron sights. But regardless, it is an option. I do appreciate that I can mount a red dot sight, but there's a lot of considerations there that you should keep in mind if you plan on doing that with the M9A4. Now, one issue I ran into with the M9A4 was the occasional failure to feed malfunction. Luckily, there was two things I did to enhance the reliability of the pistol and avoid those problems in the future, but at the time it was concerning, so it took a little bit of research and I figured a couple of things out that I want to share with you in case you run into any issues yourself. Now, the first was ensuring that the magazine was very clean and well maintained. In a very cold environment like I'm in here in North Dakota, if you have any excess debris or lubricant in your magazine, it can cause issues with your spring. And because of the design of this pistol, it's a little bit more prone to getting excess lubricant and debris and fouling into your magazines. And so if you're over lubricating your pistol, there's a good chance the magazines are going to reflect that, and in extreme cold, you're going to have some issues. However, there's one more thing I wanted to point out to just give you something to consider, especially when buying ammunition to shoot out of this specific pistol. The M9A4 was designed around the 9mm NATO cartridge. And 9mm NATO is a 124 grain projectile that operates at a little bit of a higher velocity and higher pressure than your standard 115 grain range training ammo. And the only times I was having issue with this pistol regarding failures to feed was with 115 grain full metal jacket Fiocchi 9mm Luger, which is relatively weak ammunition, and I just don't think it had enough oomph for the gun to cycle efficiently and optimally. So I want to go ahead and demonstrate that. I'll show you how it operates with 9mm NATO ammunition, as well as that 9mm 115 grain Fiocchi range training ammo, just to demonstrate how the ejection pattern changes and how the gun is just more efficient regarding cycling when using that proper 9mm NATO loading. So we're going to start off with the Fiocchi 115 grain range training ammunition. So this is weaker stuff. It's usually what people are going to buy to go out and shoot and train with. But with this particular pistol, it doesn't really cycle as optimally as it does when you have the higher pressure 9mm NATO. And I want to demonstrate that for you. So watch the spent casings eject out of the pistol, and you can see how little energy there really is there. Okay. So everything worked as it should. I didn't have any failure to feed issues, but you could see how short the spent casings were ejecting out of the pistol. They were basically just falling out of there, right? So now I'll load up some 9mm NATO, and that way you can have an idea of the difference. All right, so now we have the 9mm NATO, 124 grain full metal jackets, a little bit higher pressure, a little bit more velocity. This is Winchester white box, but you should be able to see here that there's a pretty extreme difference about the amount of distance the spent casings actually get when they eject. So pay attention to that, and you'll see the difference. Quite a noticeable difference. So if you want this gun to operate at optimal reliability, my suggestion is to at least run ammunition at that 124 grain 9mm NATO loading with the higher velocity and the little bit of extra pressure, because then this thing really starts to function the way you want it to. What else would be not necessarily a con, but just something you have to consider regarding this pistol if you wanted to get one? The biggest thing, especially for new shooters, and especially for anybody who's used to something like, a Glock or a Smith & Wesson M&P or anything like that, is that it's a double action, single action system. And I like double action, single action. I think the HK USP is an excellent pistol that I carry quite a bit. I like the M9A4 as well. And I just think hammer fired guns are cool. But you do have to learn how to use them properly. If you don't train on a double action, single action pistol, you will not be as accurate on your first shot, because that double action trigger pull is heavier, and you have to learn how to accommodate that when you're getting your gun on target and trying to put rounds down range. So you'll have to spend additional time training and additional time getting used to that transition between double action and single action in order to be very proficient with this firearm. But I think that's something that you should be willing to do, because if you're going to settle on a high quality pistol like this, getting it out on the range and shooting it and training with it is what should be your priority. So those are the things that you should consider about this gun before making a decision. And I wanted to make you aware of them and, well, be transparent with you about the things that I've run into. One more thing I want to mention is that I actually had my very first hang fire from a pistol on this gun. Now, it was a little concerning, of course, because Never had that happen before. But that was completely ammunition related, at least in my opinion. I was using Fiocchi 115 grain full metal jacket ammunition, and I just think that that round wasn't what it was supposed to be. So, Beretta M9A4, is this right for you? Is this the gun that you should spend your hard-earned dollars on? Well, you have to make that decision. But hopefully I gave you the information required for you to be more informed about that decision if it was something you were considering. And if you were looking for a high-quality duty-grade pistol that can do everything you want a pistol to do, except for maybe concealed carry, but I know some of you out there are doing that anyway, and power to you for that. Well, this is an excellent option. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you have any experience with the M9A4? Do you have any of those same opinions about the pistol? Do you think the military made a mistake by going over to the M17 from Sig Sauer rather than sticking with Beretta? I don't know, but that's something that I think could be a good conversation to have. And of course, I do want to thank Midway USA for having me here and allowing me to put content like this out. And if you have anything else you might want to find out about preparedness or firearms or anything else in general, I mean, you can always check my channel out as well. Like I said, I'm Magic Prepper, and let's do this again sometime soon.